now we are ready to start our webinar. We kept the topic as learn to think, because most of the times what we have seen is that the problems faced by people or the students at our age, at your age, is basically that how can they start thinking. Thinking is a very subjective term which all of us are always eager to do. So today in our webinar we'll be basically focusing on the things which we can, the innovative ways in which we can accelerate our thinking, in which we can start our thinking, in which we can basically use our minds to do some of the very basic things of our humankind, that is think. So like we have I guess you all can see the first slide which is visible over here is hold your chairs tight and keep your feet on the ground, as what I am going to tell you now will hit you very hard. So these things will hit you very hard because these are the harsh truths to which we are never aware of. I guess all of you can see the full screen now. Now the problem has been completely resolved, thank God. So now you can hold your chairs really tight, and now we are going to start our webinar. So the first thing first that we will be basically, like I mentioned, is that the thinking thing actually differentiates us from the animals. We say that animals, the humans are the animals who can think, who can live, who can basically think and live. So do you really think that you are living? Most of the things, when I have asked this question to most of our students, they end up saying that yes sir, we are living our lives very happily, we are living our lives in a complete state of content. मजा आ रहा है हमें, हम सब अपने घर वालों के साथ रह रहे हैं. We are living with our friends, we are living with our families, we are doing what we want to do, etc. and etc. But now again I am asking this question to all of you. Do you think you are living? Do you really think you are living? You all can think of these answers. You all can imagine the answers inside you, inside your heart. And this is the answer from my side. Okay, so even if you think that okay, you are living, but you are actually living like a human battery in a virtual world. I'm sure the photograph which I have used over here, you all would be aware of that photograph. This is a scene from a very famous movie, Matrix. In the Matrix movie, what we have seen is that the humans are controlled, or humans were controlled by machines. So what is the meaning of control? So control means that the machines have actually controlled the mind of the humans. So they have controlled the thinking power of the humans. So they have controlled the thoughts of the humans. And that's what we are right now. Not in terms of machines, not we are actually ruled by machines, but we are actually ruled by our own ignorance. So our thoughts have been very much restricted by the machines. But this Matrix movie also reflected a very ideal fact that even few humans, like the humans like Neo and Morpheus and Trinity who were in the Matrix, so they can start, if they can start thinking, they can actually come out of this mess. And how can we do that? How can we basically start thinking? Well, you have to see the next photograph of the proof which I am saying, of the thing which I am saying, and this is the photograph. This is, if you go on Google and search for a photograph named as thinker. Okay, मैंने आज Google पे search किया. I typed thinker word on the Google, and everywhere this photo came up. I don't know ये photo किसका है, कैसा है, but मैंने उसको काफी scroll down किया, and I found this photograph. The special thing about this photograph is that there are few fences which can be seen in the front of the photograph. That gave me an idea that how can I use this photograph. This photograph actually reflects that the thoughts which you have actually trapped, your thoughts are actually being trapped inside these fences right now. You are not able to freely think, you are not able to freely think about the things which you really wanted to think. So this is the photograph which reflects the current scenario of the students, which reflects the current scenario of the, of all the people who are actually living in this world, because our thoughts are being trapped in some kind of fence. This fence could be anything, but these are trapped. And since you never thought of thinking, you are still trapped in the fence. You don't even have the right to dream. Okay, so your follow your dreams has been cancelled, because only those persons can actually dream who actually can think. So thinking is not essential for just for our living, but just for our present living, but also for our future, but also for our dreams, but also for anything and everything which we'll want to become and do in our lives. But essentially, some men could dream because they could think. Now, the relation which I have mentioned between thinking and dreaming is very important, because we have seen in history, we have seen in past, like many people have actually fulfilled their dreams. Many people have actually conquered their dreams. Many people have actually become what they really wanted to become, just because they could think. T-H-I-N-K, think. So think is a very crucial word today in today's scenario. One thing more, the white screen which you were seeing before the webinar was started, there was a spelling mistake in that. Did anyone of you actually find out the spelling mistake? You all can write, whomsoever have found out. Yeah, Vikas just wrote that think was written as T-H-I-K-N. Right. Why was it done? Because that was a deliberate mistake. Okay, that was a deliberate mistake which we have committed, because to make you guys start thinking right from that period, to make you guys start thinking from that moment when you log in into your GoToMeeting software and start looking at the blank screen. Because our thoughts should never be stopped. Our thoughts are very dynamic. हमेशा आते रहते हैं, हम इधर आ रहे हैं, हम ये सोच रहे हैं, हम वो सोच रहे हैं. So हमें हमेशा उन thoughts को सोचने के लिए कुछ डालना पड़ता है. And that is the thing which we will be covering in the next part of the webinar. That how can we start thinking. Yeah, so he is the great man. We all know him. The greatest of them, Mr. Steve Jobs. Sadly, he is not with us. He is not among us currently. He was a normal man. He was a normal man. He was born out of a wedlock, put up for adoption at birth, dropped out of college, and finally, he fulfilled his dream. He changed the world. He didn't change the world once, twice, thrice. He actually changed the world n number of times. And n can be anything over here, because as far as we know, he brought Macintosh, iPods, iPhones, Pixels, iPads, iTunes, iClouds, everything. That was his creation, Mr. Steve Jobs. But how could he actually achieve his dream? The main question is, how could he actually achieve his dream? And the answer to that is, he could actually think. He could actually think, he could actually work on his thoughts, he could actually work and implement his thoughts to fulfill his dreams. अगर वो हमारी जगह होता, तो he would have given n number of excuses. He could have given n number of excuses that मेरे पास ये नहीं है, I was born, I don't have any permanent parents with me, मेरे को adoption पे दे दिया था, मेरे पास पैसे नहीं थे, मेरे पास इंटरेस्ट नहीं था, रिसोर्सेज नहीं थे, कॉलेज में मैं नहीं पढ़ा, मेरे पास डिग्री नहीं थी, ये नहीं था, वो नहीं था. बट he actually changed the world, and that was the best part. So men like Steve Jobs, men like Bill Gates, men like Mahatma Gandhi, they were actually the people who changed the world, and they were actually the people who were thinking. So it's only your thoughts, it's only your ideas, it's only your mind which can actually take you to your dreams, which can actually take you to the heights where you want to achieve or reach in your career, in your personal life, in your professional life, anywhere. It's your ideas, it's your ideas, it's your ideas. That's it. And it's the thoughts of men like these. Now, this is a very interesting picture which I have put, because this is a picture of a small kid. who is actually surrounded by a computer, a laptop, a TV, few speakers, a mobile, a touchpad, a game console, and there are things which are coming to his mind. There are ideas which are coming to his mind. There are thoughts which are coming to his mind, and these type of thoughts which come to these type of men, they actually help us to create the things. They actually help us to innovate the things, and that have become things we see, admire, and use today, which is written in this slide. So our thoughts, whenever we are actually thinking, whenever we are actually discussing any ideas or our thoughts with our friends or family, slowly and slowly they start taking some shape. Slowly and slowly they start building some shape. Slowly and slowly they start taking a concrete platform where actually we can see them, where we can actually make them available to the other people, for the use of other people. And at that moment, you realize that your thoughts have become things. And those things which are like iPods, which are like iPhones, which are like Facebook, these are the things. What do you think? I mean, iPod, जितने iPods हैं, ये Facebook है, Google है, they were ideas. Google ऐसे ही नहीं बन गया था. Google एक idea था सबसे पहले. iPod एक idea था. iPod एक thought था. And after that, when that thought arrived and people started working on those thoughts, they become the things. आज हम बहुत खुश होते हैं. आज we see the iPod, we see Kindles, we see Facebooks, we see Google, and we admire them, we use them. We have become हमें उन सब चीजों की addiction हो चुका है, habit पड़ चुकी है. They are so good that we all have become addicted to them. Why? Because they were the world-class ideas. Because they were the world-class thoughts. That's why we are addicted to them. So it's very important कि हम जो भी thoughts हमारे अंदर आते हैं, कैसे आते हैं, we'll discuss it later. But जो भी thoughts हमारे अंदर आते हैं, it's very important that we give them a shape. We give them a face where they can be projected as a thing. Because at that moment, people would be able to see it, admire it, and in the later half, they will be able to use it. Now let's try something. शुरू से we are saying कि this is a webinar on learn to think, learn to think, learn to think. So now let's try something, something unique with you, something innovative with you, which you might have never done before, which you might have never seen before, which you might have never discussed before, or which you might have never thought before. So let's try something with you. What do you think of this image? You all can write it on the chat. What do you think of this image? I'm waiting for the answers. Think for 2 minutes. Allow your mind, allow your brain to think something on this image. Okay, but think for 2 minutes. Any ideas? What do you think about this image? Simple. Whatever you think about this image, you can write it down on the chat. Obviously, it should be a novel thought. Okay. Okay, so we have answers from Vikas, Hitesh. Okay. So you are mentioning it like change. Okay, you are actually combining the two similar color parts. Change L. Okay. So my question was that what exactly, why the owners of this hotel have put this thing on their top? Why? Why have they put this such type of statement on the top of their building? Great. Kirti came up with an answer. It may be here to attract some customers. Possibly, this is one of the very good reasons, like why people use words like sex or hot over here. Anything else? Last 1 minute to think for all of you. Fine, so that's it, time up. So only Kirti could come up with some answer for that. This is a very, what my inference of this image is that this is a very unique thought which was introduced somewhere by a hotelier in America. They started using the words which would catch the user's attention. Okay, so that's why they have chosen a word sex. Everyone who is passing through that road where this hotel is situated, it would definitely attract their attention. And this was a thought which the hotel owners could think of to increase their sales, to increase their revenues, to increase their number of customers per night. So this was a thought which might have come to the hotel owners by some activity or somehow while sitting in a boardroom discussing how can they increase their sales. But this was a thought which was implemented and it resulted in a huge success. It resulted in fulfilling their dreams of becoming one of the biggest hotels of that area. But this was a thought, and they acted on their thought, and they can make it a thing which people admire, and we are admiring it. We are admiring this thought, and we all of us have used this type of activity in attracting our customers' attention. So this was the complete thought process behind this image. Now, there's a little creative creature that lurks in there. There's a very interesting line which has been written. Why only few of us were able to come up with an answer? Why only few of us were able to, come up with something innovative, with something creative, with something which is very usual to human beings, but we find it very unusual. All of us know that there is a very little creature which is still existing in our minds, which is still existing in our brain. We call it a creative creature. And mind it that creativity doesn't only mean drawing good paintings or making good videos or making good art and craft things. No, not at all. I am so poor in drawing that my drawing teacher in second standard used to say that I can't even draw a proper leaf of a tree. But I consider myself highly creative. So creativity doesn't only mean putting the thoughts on the paper. Creativity means thinking those thoughts, bringing those thoughts into your mind. So you have to bring that creative creature which is still existing inside your mind to this whole world. Let it out. Take it out. Take this creative creature out in the world, out in the sunshine, where he can actually prove to the world that how creative this mind is, how creative the mind of Hitesh is, Vikas is, or Kirti is, or Arohi is. So you have to bring in that creative creature out in the mind, out in the world, so that you can prove your worth as a thinker to the whole world. Now comes like I said, that only Kirti was able to come up with something good, and I'm sure you all could have think of something, but now comes the idea, how do we think? How means कैसे हम सोचते हैं, कैसे हम चीजों को सोचना शुरू कर सकते हैं, कैसे हम चीजों के साथ उनके ऊपर एक्ट करना स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं सोचने के बाद. Now, don't hold your knees right now, okay? That's not how humans think. This is a very age-old joke. सबने सुना होता है कि ज्यादा सोच रहा है तो घुटने में दर्द हो रहा है, because हमें लगता है कि बचपन में लगता था कि the mind is in our knees, but it's not like that. Because why is it not like that? Because it has been proven biologically, okay? Because our mind actually exists at the top of our skull, and both males and females have a different kind of mind structure, which you see over here. Like the female brain, the shopping lobe is at the top, bizarre moods area. And in the male brain, it's like job stuff, exploring action, computer operating, oodling center, guy talk, sports, commitment neuron, sex, club and wine bar, homing system. Don't take it in that manner, because this is not related to disrespect anything, but it was just a joke, okay? And so now this is how we actually think. Okay, we humans think with our little brains. We humans think with that mind which has been provided by the Almighty God to all of us. Before I move ahead, I just wanted to put in a very crucial point over here, that there are two parts of our brains. We have discussed it again and again in our previous webinars also, that we have had two different parts of our brains. The first part, the part which is like the superficial part, we call it conscious mind, and another which is the realistic part, that is the that is basically the subconscious mind. So things which exist in our brains, the things which are existing in our brains are divided into two parts, conscious and subconscious. Subconscious is those parts which are deep rooted in our brain, which are deep rooted somewhere in our skull, and we can always go back to that subconscious part and extract the things out of that. But the things which are in our conscious mind, they basically are the things which are temporary. They can be removed anytime, they can be forgotten anytime, they can be forgotten anywhere, and what we should try is to put our thoughts from conscious to subconscious mind, because things which stay in our conscious mind, they are basically the things which can be forgotten anytime. We have also discussed the same in our on our website, in our theories of learning at different places, and this has been proven fact by the greatest researchers, greatest psychologists of the world also, that the human brain, if we can control our subconscious mind, if we can put our thoughts into the subconscious mind, we can never forget them. We can never ever forget them. So this was the brain structure. We humans, the brain structure, but we are currently living in the age of information. We have tons and millions, billions, trillions, zillions of data existing on internet, in books, in videos, in the form of photographs, in the form of blogs, in the form of discussions, in the form of research papers, in the form of PhD theses, dissertations, etc., etc. We are living in this age of information, and the photograph which I have used over here again holds its importance, because all that information gives you answers to these basic questions: who, what, where, when, why, how. These are the basic questions to which that information is pointing towards. That information is taking you in the answers to that questions, in the direction of that questions. So we are currently living in this age of information. We are fortunate enough that we are living in this age of information, because I don't know how our ancestors used to know about different things when there was no phone connection, there was no internet, there was nothing like a medium for transportation of information. But like everything has an advantage and a disadvantage, and here comes the disadvantage. When we have so many things, I would compare this situation to, I will compare this situation to a party. हम एक पार्टी में जाते हैं, हमारे दोस्त की बहुत अच्छी नौकरी लगी है, let's suppose he takes all of us to a party, to a treat, and उसमें कह दिया कि भाई जितना खाना खाओ आज पूरा बिल मेरे नाम पे, and we start eating like anything. ठीक है, पहले हम starters मंगाते हैं, soups मंगाते हैं, then we order for main course, then we order for then we order for desserts, then we आखिरी में जाके we order for drinks and everything. और अगले दिन जब हम सुबह उठते हैं तो हमारा पेट खराब होता है, because there was a food overloading हो गई थी हमारे ऊपर. So what was the end result of that overloading? Some part of our body got infected. Some part of our body got impacted. Some part of our body stopped working properly. And same is with this information overload. Some part of our body would stop behaving properly. And obviously that part, all of us know, would be our brain. So currently living in this age of information, we are suffering from, we all are suffering from this information overload. एक क्वेश्चन का आंसर ढूंढने जाओ तो 1000 आंसर मिल सकते हैं. कौन सा सही है कौन सा गलत है, we don't know. So how can we avoid this information overload? How can we think of such kind of ideas which are independent of this type of information overload? He is he was a great person, and he is also, this is a very funny image. I found it on the Google today. I just typed information overload, and this was the image which I found it I think on the 4th or 5th page, search page. This looks like a person who was carrying the load of the complete earth on his brain, and suddenly there is an information overload on his shoulders, and he's getting depressed, he is getting down on his knees, and he's not able to sustain that overload, which has struck like a lightning, our ability to think, which I have written over here. So this information overload actually struck us as a lightning. This information overload actually hampers our ability to think properly, to think freely, to think innovatively, because we are affected by the preconceived notions which are existing in our mind. हमें वही चीजें समझ में आने लग जाती हैं, हमारे जो थॉट्स है उसी डायरेक्शन में फ्लो करते हैं जो बाकी लोगों की तरफ फ्लो करते हैं. So we are never able to think creatively, we are never able to bring out some newer ideas. So if I say कि I want to go to New York from Delhi, okay, मुझे दिल्ली से न्यू यॉर्क जाना है. So what I'll do, I'll go to internet and search for flights. I'll search for flights कि भाई दिल्ली से न्यू यॉर्क कौन सी फ्लाइट जाती है. But there are few people who go by ships. There are few people who go by cycling. There are few people who go by by their own certain mediums, because their thoughts are not impacted or affected by that information overload. Because there is an information overload within our minds कि भाई दिल्ली से न्यूयॉर्क हम सिर्फ प्लेन में उड़ के, एयर इंडिया के प्लेन में या लुफ्थांसा के प्लेन में उड़ के ही जा सकते हैं. So that information overload actually struck our minds and our ability to think. Now it's the time when we need to make use of the most powerful weapon. Why we want to use that most powerful weapon? Because we want to think. Because we want to think innovative. Because we want to think creative. Because we want to think new ideas. Because we might want to think dangerous ideas. And it's time when we need to make use of that weapon. Now we'll be discussing, अभी तक जो मैं कह रहा था कि how to think, learn to think. Now comes the moment when we actually discover that how can we think. What is that weapon which can actually help us to think innovatively? What is that weapon? It's provocation. I hope everyone understands this word. This is a very simple and English word, which means that someone is actually provocating you. तुम्हें कोई उकसा रहा है चीजें सोचने के लिए. There is a thing which is provocating you. There is a thing which is, which is motivating you, which is inspiring you, कि भाई, which is actually guiding you, कि भाई तुम्हें ये सोचना है, तुम्हें इस डायरेक्शन में सोचना है, तुम्हें ऐसे सोचना है, तुम्हें ये सोचना है. That is provocation. And this is the very simplest, this is the most simplest method which has been devised by scientists all over the world to improve our thinking. We'll see how can we do that. We'll basically now discuss few examples. ये provocation से हमारे thoughts कैसे आते हैं, provocation से हम सोच कैसे सकते हैं. Another, this is an analogy which we have done with provocation. Everyone, all of us do fishing. हमने कभी ना कभी जिंदगी में फिशिंग करते हुए लोगों को देखा होगा, गोवा में, बॉम्बे में या कोस्टल एरियाज में या कार्टून्स में भी लोग फिशिंग करते हैं. सो फिशिंग में क्या होता है? फिशिंग में एक जो पकड़ने वाला है वो एक कांटा डालता है लेक के अंदर या रिवर के अंदर. उस कांटे के आगे एक चारा लटका होता है, ठीक है. वी कॉल इट बेट और अ फूड फॉर द फिश. वो जो चारा है, वो जो बेट है, दैट एक्चुअली प्रोवोकेट्स द फिश कि वो कांटे के अंदर आती है और वो कांटे में आके जैसे वो चारा खाने लगती है और फंस जाती है. सेम थिंग वी हैव टू डू विद आवर थॉट्स. वी हैव टू गिव अ बेट टू आवर थॉट्स. वी हैव टू गिव अ फूड टू आवर थॉट्स ताकि वो थॉट्स आए और हमारे दिमाग में आके फंस जाए. एंड दिस वाज डन बाय द फिलोसफर्स क्लब एंड this method has been adopted by most of the big corporates of the world, most of the big companies of the world, most of the big groups of the world, research scientists of the world. जब उनके दिमाग में thoughts आने बंद हो जाते हैं, they give their thoughts a bait, a food, a provocation. How can they basically think of? Now let's think. Okay, now this is the example which we'll be discussing apart from many others. So we can see two images over here. First image is of a cheese. टॉम एंड जेरी में हमने सबने बहुत अच्छे तरीके से चीज देखा था. चीज जिसके अंदर काफी होल्स होते हैं, जिसके अंदर जेरी छुपा करता था अपने बचपन में. एंड देन हम टॉम एंड जेरी किस पे देखते थे? टीवी पे. देन वी हैव अ टीवी. ओके, सो नाउ वी हैव टू डिस्कस कि भाई ये जो थॉट्स हैं, ये सब चीज है, ये टीवी है, क्या रिलेशन है इसका? कैसे हम इनको रिलेट कर सकते हैं ताकि हमें इनोवेटिव थॉट्स आए? कैसे हम इनको रिलेट कर सकते हैं ताकि हम सोच पाए, हम चीजें सोच पाए? पर उससे पहले लेट्स सी व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम. नाउ दिस इज अ रियल केस स्टडी विच आई हैव टेकन फ्रॉम वन ऑफ द बुक्स. बहुत अच्छी बुक है, तुम पढ़ना इफ यू गाइस कैन रीड इट. दिस इज अ बुक बाय फेमस ऑथर एडवर्ड डी बोनो. Edward de Bono wrote this book, Six Thinking Hats. Okay, so I have taken this example from that book, so you all guys can read that book. There was a famous TV company जो बैठे थे बोर्ड रूम के अंदर. They were all sitting in a boardroom and they were discussing कि भाई हम अपने TVs की जो sales हैं, how can we increase the sales of our television sets? How can we bring in some very innovative ideas कि जिसकी वजह से हम अपने sales को 100%, 200% तक इंक्रीज कर सकते हैं. All of the marketing guys, sales heads, creative heads were sitting in the boardroom and सबके thoughts आने बंद हो चुके थे. All of their thoughts have been exhausted and now सब ऐसे हाथ पे धरे बैठे थे कि भाई अब how can we increase the revenues? How can we increase the sales of our TV? Suddenly वहां पे एक बंदा था, वो उठा and he said that cheese. Everyone started asking, क्या भाई, क्या चीज? You have just taken your lunch, you still want cheese? No, he said no. He said, I am saying that cheese, एक मैं आप सबको एक weight डाल रहा हूं. I am giving a word cheese. Okay, and now you guys have to think of ideas based on the cheese. So this cheese is basically the food to think of the ideas to increase the sales. So now I am again giving all of you 2 minutes. Okay. Now you have to bring in your ideas कि हम चीज को यूज करते हुए कैसे हम अपने टीवी की सेल्स बढ़ा सकते हैं. So this is an exercise for all of you. Now you have to think of an ideas. अपने थॉट्स को एक फूड डालो, अपने थॉट्स को एक चारा डालो चीज का. चीज की क्या प्रॉपर्टीज हैं, चीज से तुम्हारे दिमाग में क्या आता है, चीज से जो भी थॉट्स आते हैं उन थॉट्स को यूज करो कि हम एक टेलीविजन सेट की सेल्स कैसे बढ़ा सकते हैं, हम एक टेलीविजन सेट के अंदर क्या चेंजेस कर सकते हैं चीज से इंस्पायर होके कि हम उसके सेल्स बढ़ा सकें. नाउ योर 2 minutes स्टार्ट्स नाउ. One minute left. Okay, so Hitesh, I am repeating the question. You have to think of some ideas. Okay, you have to think of some ideas where you will be using cheese or its properties or anything related to cheese to increase the sales of the television sets. Do you understand the question, Hitesh? I hope audio was clear this time. Great. And the name of the book, okay, Hitesh, you asked the name of the book. The name of the book was Six Thinking Hats. Six Thinking Hats. Okay, so Vikas came up with one of the answers. You can keep on thinking, Vikas. This is one of the ideas. I would expect a few more ideas from each one of you. Keep thinking. Give your thoughts of food. Give your thoughts food of cheese. चीज से थॉट्स लाने तुम्हें, चीज की फिगर देखो, टीवी की फिगर देखो, थॉट्स लाओ, थॉट्स, थिंक, अपने दिमाग पे जोर डालो. बट योर थॉट शुड ओनली थिंक इन द डायरेक्शन ऑफ चीज, चीज की डायरेक्शन में सोचो. Another great idea from Vikas. Great idea from Kirti. Hitesh, any ideas? Arohi, Prerna, blank. Don't let your mind again get trapped into the fences, Hitesh. सोचो. गिव योरसेल्फ थोड़ा सा 2 मिनट एक्स्ट्रा लो, बस सोचो. सरेंडर मत करो ऐसे. डोंट सरेंडर. Last 30 seconds. Tom and Jerry DVD is free. One of the ways. It could be one of the ways. Last 10 seconds. Great. So we all thought about this thing. So आज हमने थोड़ी सी एक्सरसाइज की अपने दिमाग की, हमने थोड़ा सा सोचा चीजों के बारे में. Now I would go back and discuss the answers of each one of you. Just let me reach at the top, right. So Vikas, you started with that we can provide an offer of providing a lot of cheese free along with the TV set. Certainly, if you are selling your TVs in France, those people are actually very, fond of cheese, eating cheese. So definitely this offer can increase your TV sales. This was a good idea. Again, second idea from Vikas, we can change the packing of TV sets and provide it a shape of cheese. That's quite innovative because none of us have ever seen a TV in the form packed in a form of cheese. Perfect idea. Then comes Kirti. When we take photograph, we say cheese. So there may be some idea of getting people on TV if they buy those TV sets. Well, Kirti, you presented a thought. Okay, you presented a vague idea, but I wanted a very up to the mark idea कि हाँ भाई ये चीज मैं उनके sales वालों को बता दूंगा and they would implement that thing. But your thought is again good in terms of that people would be able to relate their photographs, their personalized photographs with the kind of the photographs which you will be putting them on the TV. So this is again a good idea. Okay, so Arohi's answer is we can give free books. Who Moved My Cheese by Johnson Spencer. Okay, again we can give free books. All these are freebies which we can give to them. Perfect. The TV should be made in such a way from Vikas. So Vikas, it's a third idea. The TV should be made in such a way that it must appear as a yummy cheese. Okay, I'm not sure how much the electronic engineers would agree with that, but certainly that could be one of the possibilities in the near future where we can see, or rather we can see the TV in the form of a cheese or in the form of a gun or in the form of a pizza anytime. Finally Hitesh came up with an idea, Tom and Jerry DVD screen. Perfect. So this exercise actually prompted all of you that you could actually think, prompted all of you that you can actually put a bait to your thoughts and attract innovative ideas to solve the problem. And the problem was really great. Okay, so now I will discuss the answer which was actually mentioned in the book. Okay, and this was the idea which was mentioned in the book. So I know the photograph is not that great, so I could find this photo only on the Google. So what you can see is like there are two screens. Okay, there are two channels which a person can see simultaneously on the TV. It's just like windows on the cheese. Cheese में क्या होता है? बहुत सारे छेद होते हैं. ठीक है? There are different windows which are present on the cheese. So people started thinking हम कैसे कर सकते हैं? हम बहुत सारे channels इकट्ठे दिखा सकते हैं. We can show them कि एक channel आप देख रहे हो, दूसरे channel पे क्या आ रहा है? You can switch on those channels. So this was an idea which came out from that meeting. This was an idea which came out from that meeting and it was implemented perfectly by that television company. And this was the innovation which came from this kind of exercise. And this is a hugely popular thing right now. अगर तुम Tata Sky और Dish TV और वो सब चीजें देखो तो उसमें यही आता है. You can always see on the other channels like कि हम इस channel में बैठे हैं तो बाकी channels में भी आ सकते हैं. So this kind of exercise was being implemented in the corporates, in the companies to motivate to provocate their employees to come up with different ideas, to come up with innovative ideas. Now comes how can we generate more ideas, because now we have to understand that ठीक है ऐसे हम ideas को सोच सकते हैं. But how can we generate more ideas? कि हमें ideas आए कहाँ से? ठीक है, हम किन topics पे ideas सोचे, हम किन topics के ऊपर अपने ideas सोचे? Because you need a problem. Okay, you just can't start thinking. You need a problem for which you can think of ideas. So here comes this is the last part of our webinar, and I would discuss this slide in a bit detail with all of you. So let's suppose you want to know different things about anything. Let's suppose you want to know about the London Olympics, which are going to happen, or book fixing in IPL, anything. You want to generate few ideas about those things, okay? Or the best part, the latest show of Amir Khan, Satyameva Jayate. Bhai Satyameva Jayate mein jo problems dikha raha hai, you want to think about the solutions of these problems. Okay. So let's see how can we generate those ideas. How can we think of the problems ki hum uske liye ideas generate kare. So the first part for that is that you start reading this one. You start reading about Amir Khan, you start reading about the IPL matches, you start reading about कि हमारी Commonwealth scam क्या है, 2G scam क्या है, anything, any problem on which you want to basically you want to say something and you want to generate some idea. Then then what we can do is basically we can start applying those ideas. We can start applying whatever we have read, whatever we have watched, whatever we have listened. But between this reading and writing, there comes a very interesting phenomenon, very common thing. Okay, so you read something, you thought about it. You wrote something, you applied something, you thought about it. Then your thinking process keeps on moving, and from time to time, that would help you to generate more ideas. Once you have applied it, once you have written it, once you have started thinking about it, at that moment you can start speaking about it. Okay, at that moment you can start discussing about it. At that moment you can start teaching your juniors, teaching your friends, teaching your family members that what all you have learned, what all ideas you have thought of, what all things you have thought of, everything. So you started with reading stuff, then you thought about it, then you wrote it or applied it, then you thought about it, then you spoke it, then you thought about it. So this is a triangle of reading, writing and speaking. And read, write, speak are basically the vertices of this triangle, but thinking is actually the three sides. So these three sides actually form a triangle, and thinking is that side. Thinking would actually form this triangle of reading, writing and speaking. Thinking would actually form the triangle of your innovation. Thinking would actually form the triangle of creativity. So you read stuff, you think about it, you write stuff or apply stuff, you think about it, you speak stuff, you think about it. And keep thinking, and keep thinking about it. Now, मैंने ये इमेज शुरू में दिखाई थी, ठीक है? I showed this image with fences. Okay. क्यों? क्योंकि तब हमारे अंदर एक रेजिस्टेंस था, हमारे अंदर एक फ्रिक्शन थी कि सर हम सोचे कैसे? How can we think of ideas? I want to think, but I am not able to think. Now we have, during the course of webinar, what we have done is we have find out a way in which we can think by putting a food for our thought. We have discussed the way जिसमें हम problem सोच सकते हैं. Read, write, speak से we can think of more innovative ideas on different kind of topics. Now it's time to break the fences. Now it's time to jump from the cliff. Now it's time to break these barriers, to break these shackles and let our mind think freely. Because it's very important for our career, it's very important for our growth that we start thinking freely. Now, as we do in all of our webinars, we kind of, generate a compliance among our viewers. Okay. Generally what happens, आप इस webinar को देखेंगे, बहुत अच्छा लगा, बहुत अच्छी exercise थी, and आप जाओगे यहाँ से, and you will just forget about it. So it's very important that we create a compliance of whatever we have learned, whatever we want to apply. क्योंकि हम सबको पता है ये सब चीजें हमारे लिए बहुत अच्छी हैं, हम सबको पता है कि ये सब चीजें हमें बहुत benefit देंगी, but we don't want to apply it. क्यों? Because we will be going back to the same environment, we will be going back to the same ecosystem, जहाँ पे ये सब चीजें promote नहीं की जाती, जहाँ provocation is just only a thought, it's not an activity. So at that moment, we want कि हम सब एक compliance create करें, हम सब अपने लिए एक compliance create करें, हम सब अपने आप से एक प्रॉमिस करें, हम सब एक दूसरे से एक प्रॉमिस करें that yes, I will be thinking, that yes, I will be doing all these things which have been mentioned in this webinar, which we have learned from this webinar. So I promise, think, and think. क्योंकि my objective of putting 1 exclamation, 2 exclamations, 3 exclamations over here is think once, think twice, think thrice, but keep thinking. Okay. So आप लोगों में से whomsoever feel that they would keep up their promise, they would keep up the things which they have learned over here, they would keep on doing those things after going from this webinar. They would apply all these things, they would apply all that stuff in their lives, in your lives. They can always send this SMS. You just have to send yes to this number, 9887056100. You can send it right away if you feel कि तुम यहाँ पे जाने के बाद इस webinar की जो सारी चीजें हैं वो सब चीजें you will be following together. This is the last slide, okay, and generally this slide people put in the start of the PPT, क्योंकि वो ये बताना चाहते हैं कि इस PPT या इस webinar के बाद you will be changed. पर मैं ये नहीं बताना चाहता, बिकॉज इस वेबिनार के बाद आप अंदर कोई भी चेंज नहीं आएगा. बट अगर तुम ये सब चीजें, इफ यू वुड बी एबल टू फॉलो ऑल दीज थिंग्स प्रॉपरली, देन आई एम श्योर दैट यू वुड बी सीइंग अ ग्रेट चेंज इन योर लाइफ. चेंज अहेड का मतलब ही यही था कि यू गाइज वुड बी एबल टू सी दैट चेंज ओनली एंड ओनली व्हेन यू वुड बी अप्लाइंग ऑल दीज थिंग्स. सो you all guys should make this promise. You all guys should make this promise to us, to yourself, to bring this change in your lives, to bring this change in your careers, to bring this change in your personal lives, in your professional lives, in your thought process, in your mind, in your thinking, in your presence of mind, everything, anything which is related to your mind, you have to change that. And you can only change that by thinking, and just thinking. Thanks.